Runaway Bride is a popular romantic comedy. It is said to be a sequel to Pretty Women, which was released a decade ago. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere played the lead in both. It has everything a chick flick should have: a gorgeous cast, beautiful location, a meet-cute, enemy-to-lovers trope, and negligible conflict. And in the end, the lead pair ends up together. What else do you want? Runaway Bride has all these elements, but is it really worth watching? Let's find out in this video. The movie begins with Ike Graham, played by Richard Gere. He is a New York journalist and is looking for a story idea in a bar. He is infamous for writing women in a bad light in his column. He often gets called out for that by many women. Some even hit him on the street. In the bar, a man tells him a story about a country girl who practically runs away in the middle of the weddings, leaving her grooms embarrassed at the altar. According to him, she has done this many times to count. She is a man-eater and soul-crusher of many men. Fascinated, Ike runs the story in his column the next day. However, Maggie Carpenter, played by Julia Roberts, reads the story he printed and feels offended since the article is about her. She then writes a letter to the newspaper, confronting them for humiliating her without any actual proof. After this, Ike's boss, who is also his ex-wife, fires him for printing a made-up story. Jobless and enraged, Ike goes to the town where Maggie lives. He is on a mission to collect some proof to support his story and get his job back. On his arrival, he meets Maggie and her friends in their beauty salon, but they recognize him and play a prank on him by dyeing his hair in rainbow colors. Agitated, Ike challenges Maggie that he will expose her. That night, when Maggie returns home, she finds that Ike is already there with her fiancé Bob and her family. She is more annoyed when she sees that he has already made friends with them and they are all laughing at her together. Ike learns there that she was a bright student in high school, has studied industrial design, and has even won scholarship for college. During the dinner, Maggie informs him that her new fiancé Bob is the football coach for the local high school and they are planning to go trekking on Annapurna Mountain for their honeymoon. Maggie's father gives Ike her wedding tapes that night. Watching those tapes, he finds out that she really has run away from 3 weddings. First was a local musician, Gil. Second one was a priest, Brian. And the guy who broke the story to him in that bar was actually the groom number 3, George. And now she is ready to marry the 4th time. The next day, Maggie finds Ike with Bob on the football field. Also, Bob has invited him to their wedding, much to her annoyance. Later, she goes to the church where her second ex-groom, Brian, is a priest. She warns him about Ike snooping around, but Brian tells her that Ike has met him already. Brian claims that he has painted Maggie in a good light and being a priest is his true calling now and there are no hard feelings. But he still remembers every little thing about Maggie, even her favorite kind of egg. She realizes for the first time that she has done him wrong and then apologizes for breaking his heart. Later, she goes to the garage where her first ex-groom, Gil, the musician, worked. She tries to warn him about the reporter, but again finds him present there. Ike has an old photo of her from the time when she was dating Gil. Ike places a wager with Gil that Maggie doesn't have the rose tattoo on her back from their wedding. At first she refuses, but they both pressurize her into showing her back and there is no tattoo. Gil feels betrayed. Maggie yet again has to apologize to her ex as she never has gotten the tattoo in the first place. This shows that she was not as committed to the musician as he had thought before. Later, Ike and Maggie see each other again at the local baseball game. Her best friend Peggy tells Ike about her husband Corey, who is playing there, and reveals that Maggie and Corey have dated briefly in high school. But soon they see that Maggie becomes too friendly with Corey, cheering up for his score. This visibly upsets Peggy and she leaves the game. Maggie then confronts Ike, but he tells her about her lack of boundaries and her flirtations with her best friend's husband. The next day, when Peggy opens her salon in the morning, she finds Maggie inside. Maggie asks if her friend thinks she flirts with her husband. She says sorry and promises not to do that again. But Peggy points out that Maggie has been doing that since they were kids and she should stop that since it hurts people. She also adds that Maggie should commit to one person only. Maggie later goes to Ike's hotel room to snoop around behind his back. There she finds his notes on her and snatches them. When Ike arrives, she hides in the bathroom and escapes via climbing the window onto the ledge. In her home, she reads his notes. In the morning, she goes to see Ike again at his hotel. She offers him a deal to follow her around and interview her in person in exchange for some money. Ike agrees to it. First, they go to Maggie's hardware shop. He sees her designs built from industrial tools. He is so impressed with them that he urges her to sell them in New York. Then she shows him all the 3 engagement rings she has got from her exes. She tells the story of how Bob proposed to her by putting a display on a scoreboard at a game, and how it was fun and romantic. But Ike disapproves by saying it sounds flashy and not heartfelt. He even acts out a heartfelt proposal for her.
I guarantee there'll be tough times. I guarantee that at some point, one or both of us is going to want to get out of this thing. But I also guarantee that if I don't ask you to be mine, I'll regret it the rest of my life.
She then asks about his divorce and he says he doesn't have any idea how it happened. Later, they go to buy a wedding dress for Maggie. She likes a new dress on display, but the saleswoman refuses to sell her that. Her reason is Maggie will put on her wedding dress only for a few minutes, so why waste $1,000 on it? Seeing Maggie upset, Ike intervenes and gets her the dress she wanted. When she wears it and shows it to him, Ike can't hide his amusement. In the next scene, we see that Maggie orders the same eggs as Bob in the diner and Ike gets angry and storms off. Later, Maggie gives him a rare music album as a peacemaker. Afterwards, they spend more time together to get to know each other better. The next day, Ike goes to New York and meets the 3rd ex-groom in the bar. When George accuses Maggie of being a man-eater, Ike defends her. He claims that he was wrong before and his views about Maggie have been changed now. Exasperated, the man leaves the bar. He blames Ike for falling into her trap. The next scene is Maggie's pre-wedding luau. Everyone is drinking, dancing and having fun, and Ike is also there. But things take a dark turn when everybody starts mocking Maggie in the pretext of giving a toast. Unable to see this, Ike sarcastically calls out her friends and family when it is his turn. But then Maggie gets up and leaves the scene in a hurry and Ike goes behind her. Maggie yells at him for being rude to her people, but he claims he was defending her. They both accuse each other of being fake. Ike tells her that she doesn't want to trek a mountain on her honeymoon and that Bob does not care what she likes and she is just going along with it. We can see the sparks of attraction between them, but Bob's come there and takes Maggie away. Next, we see the rehearsal of the wedding. Bob wants to practice once more the progression of the ceremony. Maggie wants Ike to be there to witness her commitment. However, when she walks down the aisle, she looks at Ike who is standing in Bob's place. Unable to resist the temptation, they kiss each other in front of everyone. Then Bob gets angry, he punches Ike and storms out of there. When everyone leaves, Ike suggests that they should get married since they already have a dress, a church, and the music on schedule. And Maggie agrees to it. The wedding day arrives and the church is full of reporters in front of it. Most of them are from New York. Some are even betting on the bride running again. We see that Maggie is jittery with nerves and Ike is tense under pressure. Bob advises him to maintain eye contact with his bride. Meanwhile, Maggie's friends try to calm her and tell her that Ike is the one for Maggie. The ceremony begins and Maggie starts walking down the aisle. She is smiling and looking at Ike. Soon she is standing in front of the altar. But someone flashes a camera and their eye contact breaks. Maggie spooks and reverses her footstep. She runs away by dodging Ike and everyone else in the church. She catches a moving FedEx truck and Ike runs after her, pleading with her, but she doesn't stop. In the end, he stands there helpless, surrounded by all the reporters. A week after the wedding fiasco, Peggy suggests to Maggie that maybe she still has a chance with Ike. She just needs to get all her ducks in a row. We see Maggie going through reflections and Ike sulking in New York all alone. Ike comes home only to find Maggie already there. He is not surprised given her history of breaking and entering. He tells her that he saw her designs on display in some shops in the city. It means she has taken his advice. Maggie says she could not take back what happened in the church, but she has a proposal for him. She tells him that all her ex-grooms didn't know her at all because she didn't know herself back then. But Ike knew her. And now she has figured out what she is and what she wants. She confesses that she hates big weddings and everyone staring at her. She wants her own horse if they are riding together. She even gives her running shoes to him, saying she is done running. Then she proposes to Ike using his own lines.
That we'll have tough times. And I guarantee that at some point, one or both of us will want to get out. But I also guarantee that if I don't ask you to be mine, I'll regret it for the rest of my life.
we see both of them slow dancing together and their wedding happening in an open field with no one else present there. They are riding on their horses into the sunset as a married couple. The movie ends with everyone cheering and celebrating. There are so many throwbacks to Pretty Women in this movie. When she mentions in the salon that red is not her color, it was a throwback to her red dress in The Pretty Woman. When they negotiate the deal, it is the same as Vivian and Edward negotiating her rate. And when the saleswoman refuses to sell her new wedding dress, it was the same as saleswoman in Pretty Women. They did everything to bait their audience in Runaway Bride. Runaway Bride came almost 10 years after Pretty Women. Richard Gere and Julia Roberts' chemistry upholds the movie throughout. It is the kind of movie which runs not on the plot, but on the performances of the actors. Everything looks great. The countryside of Maggie's town creates a fresh and welcoming contrast against the grim and dark New York. Dialogues are okay and the plot is passable. I think this is the closest a chick flick can get to reality. It is not about true love's kiss or love at first sight. It's not about girls' obsession with weddings. It's not a story about finding the right person or soulmate. It is about self-awareness. Ike had to let go of his prejudices against women. He apologized to his ex-wife for his mistreatment of her. He fell for Maggie because he could see past her mistakes, her real self, that she was a good daughter, a great friend, and she could stand up to him. Maggie had to find out what she wanted and who she was. She had a fear of commitment, but her main problem was not knowing who she was. She used to get along with anyone just because they were fun or different. She didn't even know what kind of ex she liked. However, we see in the end, she stopped pleasing people or letting them walk all over her. She figured out what she wanted to do with her life, and then accepted Ike wholeheartedly by committing to him. Finally, she didn't run away. The movie shows how love should be, flawed, yet accepting. Please like, share and subscribe for more. And also let us know which movie you want to see next.